Hi, friends, it's Will, and I'm here with another tarot reading. I've pulled out 5 decks here. I'll tell you what they are in just a moment, and of course, you can see the information below. I'm going to get some smoke on these cards, and today we're going to answer the question: what gift do you have to share with the world? What is your unique gift that you've got that you need to be sharing with other people? So to start, we are going to take just the majors, the major arcana from the Golden Arch Nouveau Tarot. That's these guys right here. And from these, we will choose significators. Okay, so I'll do those in a moment. And then pile one, whatever its significator is, that's going to be the Star Spinner Tarot. So we'll use that for pile one. For two, we're going to do these guys, the Ethereal Visions, if they will cooperate, the Ethereal Visions Tarot Luna Edition. And then I've chosen the Weiser Tarot for number 3. The Weiser Tarot. I also pulled out my Noblet Tarot de Marseille. That's these little guys right here, because I think we'll do a little message of the day, focus message for the end of each reading. Okay, so now that I have gotten some smoke on all of these, I'm going to take the decks away, except for the majors from the Golden Art Nouveau, and we will use those to draw significators, and you will choose one of them to help you decide which pile is yours today. All right. So I've shuffled these. Let me give them a little bit more of a shuffle here. And then we will lay out 3 of them, one to correspond to each deck that we're going to use to figure out what is your gift. What gift do you have that you can share with the world? Okay, we've got the Devil, number 1, the Devil. That will go with the Star Spinner. You little devil, you. So I would be inclined to read this as helping people find their freedom, right? Not so much in getting people chained up, but in helping people recognize, indeed, that they are chained and that there's a way to free themselves of those chains. So, like, this might be someone who's an addiction counselor. This could be someone who does some social justice work, helps people recognize the ways in which they've been oppressed. This could also, I could read the devil, likes to have a really good time, is fun and sexy, and nightlife comes to mind when I'm thinking of the devil. And so this could be someone who's like running a bar or is helping people have fun, like a bartender, even that kind of thing. All of those, I think, would apply. So the devil, does the devil speak to you in some way? Do you think that your gift in this life to share with the world is devilish? It could also just be something very, very sensual, material, right? Like, oh, I don't know, someone who makes chocolates for a living, or I don't know, a sommelier, right? Someone who studies wine. That might fit with the devil. Here we've got justice for number 2. And of course, that will go here with the Ethereal Visions Tarot Luna Edition. Justice, this would be someone whose gift is related to finding balance, making the right decision, using the mind. You could be a lawyer, you could be A student, someone who likes puzzles, someone who is very good at figuring things out using their mind as opposed to like their emotions or based on practical considerations. Someone who's very good at figuring out like how things ought to be, right? This could be someone who makes really important decisions. This could be like a manager or someone who has to decide things that don't necessarily have considerations to like people's feelings or the human factor, or things like that. Someone who has to make the tough decisions in life, right? I also think this could be someone who has to do like with the sword, someone who like an editor, right? Like someone who's cutting or trimming away, making tough decisions about what should exist or not exist anymore in a particular project, like a project manager maybe, and who's like weighing the pros and cons of stuff. Number three, the world, and that will go with the Weiser tarot, the world. And so here we have bringing together all a bunch of disparate elements, right? We have fire, earth, air, and water, with each of the four fixed signs of the zodiac, bringing them together, right? So this could be someone who unites others in some way. Is it your job to bring groups together? Are you good at bringing groups together? I also think of the world as dancing. I think that's what she's doing. I think she's dancing within this frame, right? So maybe your gift has something to do with body movement or gesture or dance. I also think the world is like just a perfect, complete vision of what could be. So are you someone who is able to form visions of how things ought to be? Right? You can see, here's where we should end up. This is the goal that we should have. This is what we should be aiming for. And then you bring all these different people or elements or things together to unite them to make that happen. So these are our three cards. You'll see the timestamps below. And just to review, choose the devil, right? If you want the star spinner and you're thinking freeing people from their bondage, having a good time, helping people recognize oppression, all of that kind of stuff. For number two, justice, that's with Ethereal Visions Luna edition. If you are a thinker, law, teacher, educator, makes tough decisions, has to find a way to edit or cut things out or down in some way by using their mind, weighing pros and cons. All of that is for justice. And then the world bringing together disparate elements, dancing, using the body, that will go with the Weiser tarot, having a perfect vision of where things should end up, or also bringing things to a close, completing things, finishing projects in some way. That would make sense with the world card as well. So I will see you in your reading 1, 2, 3, and I look forward to it. See you there. Hello, group 1. Welcome to your reading. You chose the devil as your significator here. And, I already explained some of the possible meanings there regarding what your gift to share with the world might be. Maybe you're good at helping others recognize their oppression. Maybe you're good at freeing people from some kind of bondage that they have, whether it's a substance or a behavior or a pattern or something from the past. Like you could be a counselor who's helping people work through a trauma. I also think something I don't think I mentioned in the intro was with the devil, creativity that like is maybe out of control a little bit. Not necessarily in a bad way, although you'd want to watch out for that, but maybe you're a very creative person, and maybe it's in a way that defies social norms. I think that's something the devil does. The devil doesn't follow the rules like the Hierophant, for example. The devil breaks the rules, right, deliberately, and often that is key to success, I think, in the art world, for example. So maybe there's some creative outlet that is your gift to share with the world. I've got the Star Spinner Tarot here, and I'm just shuffling them, as you can see a little more. I'm going to lay out 3 cards to answer the question, what gift do you have to share with the world? And then we'll do follow-up questions depending on what kind of cards we get. So, what gift do you little devil, what do you have to share with the world? Ooh, Queen of Cups. So here I think of a medium, maybe a mystic or psychic. I think of maybe someone who's very much in touch with their own feelings and is able to feel others' feelings. Maybe when that person can't even feel their own feelings, right? The Queen of Cups is the most watery of all the court cards. She's water of water. And so her strength there is, think about how water behaves, right? If anything moves in water, it sends a ripple all the way through the rest of the water, right? And so she's super sensitive to feeling when other things are happening around her, if that makes sense, right? So that's the first thing that comes to mind, is extremely emotionally sensitive. And if not emotionally, then like sensitive to the unconscious, if that makes sense, right? To her own unconscious and maybe to the unconscious of others around her. Like she might be able to analyze and determine, understand that somebody is behaving in a way that doesn't seem to make sense to anybody else, but she will understand it because she can empathize with their unconscious patterns and habits, and she can see that they're behaving in that way because it's part of how their unconscious mind is structured, right? 9 swords. Here's a little devil. Isn't that just a little devil, right? So, of course, we think here often of anxiety, but anxiety isn't really a gift, I would say. So the other thing I would think of here with swords, we think of sharp thoughts, we think of the mind, we think of the intellect, and with 9, I think of attainment, getting something, holding on to something, grasping something. And so with the 9 of swords, I would think a gift here could be the ability to grasp sharp ideas, right? They might sometimes overpower you. They might keep you up at night sometimes. But the key to focus on here is that you are able to get all of these swords in your mind, so to speak, right? And so there's a really great balance here between the mind and the emotions with the Queen of Chalices and the 9 of Swords, right? You're strong in both of these areas with your emotions, understanding them, having patience with them, being empathetic to others even, but also exercising your mental capacity to understand situations. I almost wouldn't be surprised if you see the 3 of Swords come up at some point, not to indicate heartbreak, but to indicate the mind's ability to make sense of the heart, right? More chalices, but here it's the page. Here we have the page of chalices, or the page of cups it would be in other decks. And of course, there's this adorable little puppy. It's so cute. Also, I didn't point out earlier the whales on the Queen of Cups, chalices. So there could be something to do with animals here. Also, do you have pets that you maybe you're really good at understanding pets' feelings or animals' feelings or something like that would be something to consider. So I think of the page here as a dreamer. The page is like the inner child, the little kid inside of us who has dreams that other people might sort of laugh at and say, "Oh, you think you're going to do that one day? That's adorable. You'll grow up. You'll see how the world really works. You'll see that what you're thinking isn't possible." But the page doesn't have that negation that happens, right? They dream something and they're like, "No, really, that is what I'm going to do, right? Sure, I'm just a page. Sure, I have a long way to go, but you can't stomp on my dreams, right? The strength of their dreams. They are also very emotionally sensitive. They can be oversensitive. That would be something to watch out for. And paired with the Queen of Chalices, I would think that emotional sensitivity um, is maybe a gift and also can be troubling for you in life, right? That's what would come to mind here with these three cards. So, if we were to read these sort of together to answer the question, what gift do you have to share with the world? It's your ability to feel things deeply, to make sense of them mentally, and even maybe communicate that to others, right? Even though sometimes it might keep you up at night, okay? And then to guide people, to show people through a patience and understanding that others lack, to guide people towards seeing and feeling and recognizing their dreams, right? What it is they really want. This scene is beautiful with this um, I want to say young woman, but young person, maybe a mermaid, since we have a mermaid here with the Queen of Chalices, who's in this beautifully colored woodland scene with this cozy cabin and smokes coming up out of the chimney. Oh, she is a mermaid. Look, because here's her tail, right? Of course, that's her tail. So that's my answer to the first question is you are an empath. You feel and make sense of other people's feelings for the purpose of, and maybe not just other people's, but your own also. Make sense of people's feelings for the purpose of helping them see their dreams. And to come back to the devil that you chose here as your significator, maybe the issue is that these dreams don't make sense to the rest of the world, right? Maybe your dream or the dreams you're helping other people achieve, the rest of the world looks at them and points and says, no, bad, wrong. It doesn't follow the way we're supposed to go. It doesn't fit into socially sanctioned institutions. You're not learning the right thing. You're not teaching the right thing. You're not guiding people on the straight and narrow path. You're taking them off on the way of the devil, right? And so maybe that is the issue here, that other people don't understand what it is, what your gift is, right? So let's push these up and we'll pull three more. And I think I'd like to know next, if we know what the gift is, let's ask, how can you develop it or strengthen it? How can you develop your gift, build your gift, strengthen this empathic gift, this devilishly empathic gift that you have? What did I say? What did I say? Three swords, right? So this is about learning. This is about the growth of the mind. Three is growth, swords of the mind. We've got the heart here. Exactly what I was saying earlier, right? We've got, so how do you develop your practice, right? When you are around others, try to exercise, practice understanding their feelings, and then not just feeling their feelings, because I think that's what the Queen and the Page would do, particularly that Queen, but then translating it into thoughts, ideas that can be communicated, right, verbally or written, right? How can you improve 2 coins? So you have to find a balance of it, right? You've got to juggle it a bit. You've got to find a balance because what can happen if you are really good at empathizing with others, it can get out of hand, right? You have to put on your own life vest first, or put on your own oxygen mask first, right? Take care of yourself before you can take care of others. And so, to some extent, I think that means finding a way to be grounded, right? But also finding a way to um, to like when you need to not feel other people's feelings, right? Figure out how you can turn it on and off. Ooh, 10 coins. So, how can you grow your gift by expanding from 2 to 10? And so, with the 10, I think of, well, first there's another dog. So, another pet, right? Another animal here. Um, Also, quite a few ships we're seeing. So, I think of leaving behind a legacy. So, this would make me think of you passing your gift to others like an inheritance, right? For the future, leaving something behind for others, whether it's maybe through animals, or with the page of chalices, it could be through a child or children, right? But leaving something of yourself behind for others long term, so that it's like it's not even about you, right? It's about the thing. It's about your gift, leaving your gift for others. So, can you think of ways of developing your empathic abilities to feel and understand and make sense of other people's emotions and maybe their dreams that the world doesn't understand? And maybe it's helping them develop that dream into something that will last. Like, I don't know, maybe it's like a social your work on in a social justice group, right? And then even once you're no longer involved with that group, the group's work has endured. It leaves a legacy that others can metaphorically inherit, right? Okay. So let's say that you take your gift, and let's say that you do grow it and you learn and you find a balance, how to turn it on, how to turn it off, and you invest it, so to speak, in order to build a lasting legacy that others can inherit. What could you stand to gain? That will be our third question. What is the payoff here of sharing, of developing, and then sharing your gift with others? What could this get you? Or what could you give to others? I guess would be another way of putting it. The Empress. Oh, she's beautiful. She's so beautiful. The Empress. So, self care, comfort, creativity, growth, fertility, right? Not necessarily in terms of children, but like it could be fertile ideas, fertile actions. I'm getting that from the, what do we call these? Stalks of wheat. I believe that's what we're looking at in this giant stalk of wheat here. So, um, what could you get out of this? You could turn into an empress, right? You were a queen in the first card that came up, Queen of Chalices, but promotion up to empress status. What could you get? Oh, one chalice, an ace of chalices. So, new potential, new beginnings with relationships or with emotions, feelings. So, you could feel new feelings. I think as we all age, that is something that happens as we're in new situations that we've never experienced before. Um, if we are open, as I think a Queen of Cups like you would be, uh, we can feel things we've never felt when we were younger, a depth of feeling that comes with experience and with aging. I also think of the way that these are lotuses and they grow in the water and they grow from the muck, right? Like the mud and the silt and the clay and everything that's down at the bottom of the pond or whatever we're looking at, lake. They grow out of it and they have so much potential to grow out of kind of slimy-ish conditions. and so a great emotional or relational potential, I would see there. What else have we got? The Knight of Coins. Well, this could be a relationship. If you develop your empathic ability, uh, your ability to understand feelings and relationships with the mind, we've got the Empress and we've got the Knight of Coins, and between them is the Ace of Cups. And so Ace of Cups can mean new relationship. We've got two figures who I could imagine maybe coming together there. So that's a possibility ahead. I think that sometimes people will say, I want to be in a relationship, I'm looking to date someone, I'm trying to find my partner, whatever it might be. And they're working towards that when what they really should be doing is working on themselves, right? Being open to finding someone, but working on themselves, nurturing their own gifts. And then the finding the other person just kind of happens when you're growing yourself, when you're the best you can be. The other person like might just show up, right? Without you having to look for them. As soon as you sort of stop looking, that's why that might be when they pop up. And so that kind of situation could show up here. Another way of reading this would be this is another facet of your personality, Knight of Coins, right? And so this is about doing the tried and true, steady, hard work every day of improving yourself, right? Cool. So let's do a little focus message using the Jean Noblet Tarot de Marseille. These are shuffled. I'll just pull 3 little cards out. And this is like, when you finish watching this today, what should you be thinking about? What should you focus on going forward to nurture your gift, to understand your gift better, to use your gift with others, share it with others? Let's see what we've got. Ooh. We'll just lay out 3 of these little cards. King of Cups. So Queen of Chalices came up earlier, and she's all about the patience and understanding and the empathy to pick up on others' emotions, right? She's really good at understanding that kind of stuff. The King is better at having power, control, and knowledge over that kind of stuff, right? So this is telling you today the thing to focus on is more about not letting it in, but finding that balance like we saw with the 2 of Coins, knowing when to cut it off, right? Knowing when to say, okay, yes, I am capable of feeling that you're feeling, but right now I can't, okay? Right now, today, in this moment, just because I am capable of it doesn't mean I have to do it, right? 8 swords. This is about putting up a wall so that you can continue to grow, right? That's how I would read this in the Tarot de Marseille. I know it's a little different in the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition, but think of these as fences being put up so that this little flower can bloom. Because if it doesn't, these other little flowers, maybe they're weeds, can encroach upon its space, and it's not going to be able to get up to grow, to thrive. So it's okay to put up boundaries. Maybe that's a message that you need to hear right now. You don't always have to feel everything everyone's feeling just because you're capable of it. You need to defend yourself too, right? 4 of Swords, but you also need to know when to lessen those fences, bring them down a little bit. You can still have them up when you need so that you can rest when you need to, but look at the growth that's happening. So you need to know that when you are able to put down your defenses, that is also when you will have more room to grow. See how the flower grows from this little bud to this big, beautiful flower, right? So some control over your ability, over your gift, knowing it's okay to put up defenses, but also realizing your greatest potential for growth will come when you can lower those defenses a bit, right? from big defenses to maybe smaller boundaries or restrictions. Okay, I will stop the reading there. I'm very satisfied with this. Let me know in the comments below which of these cards stood out to you and resonated. I'd love to hear it. Please consider liking and subscribing if you enjoyed the video, and I will see you in your next reading. Hello, Group 2, and welcome to your reading. You chose Justice, which I've paired here with the Ethereal Visions Tarot Luna edition. And we're going to answer the question, what gift do you have to share with the world? Because you chose justice, it makes me think that you're a rational person, a reasonable person. You're good at making decisions, maybe the decisions that other people don't want to make or don't want to have to make. You maybe reluctantly are good at that, and so you can do it, right? You know how to make the tough choices in life when there's maybe two decisions or two options that neither of them look good. You know how to cut through that and figure out what to make of it. It could be that you're involved in the legal system in some way or the justice system in one way, but more likely it's just that there are norms or rules, and you know how to understand those norms and rules and how to apply them and follow them in the right way, okay? Like following the spirit of the law, not necessarily just the letter of the law or the rule or the norm or the office policy or whatever it might be. So we're going to pull 3 cards out here to answer the question, what gift do you have to share with the world? And then we'll read those cards and see where they take us and pull out additional cards as needed until we get a satisfying reading. Let's see what we get first. What is the gift you have to share with the world? 3 swords. So justice is not a swords card, it's a major, but she is holding a sword. So we're thinking about the mind here, very much about the mind. I don't always read this card in terms of heartbreak, although it could certainly be that, right? Maybe there's something to do with a broken heart or a heart that's hurting. But I also think of it just in terms of learning and the growth of the mind. 3 is growth, swords are the mind. This card came up in the previous reading today as well, so it's kind of a repeater there. Knight of Pentacles also came up in the previous reading, and of course it's from a different deck, so we are getting some echoes of the previous reading. Knight of Pentacles, I think she is so badass the way she looks. I just love her hair, and I feel like she would get shit done. Also a little afraid of her, I think. The look in her eyes. She is slow and steady, but she wins the race. She's got this killer shield here. She knows how to defend herself. All of these lines, paths we see in the background, these are fields that have been tilled, right? Fields that have been plowed. And she has done that work, slow and steady. She's done it. It took a long time. It was physical. Maybe she's tired, but she kept going. She did it anyways. And I say she, but of course it could be a person of any gender who uses any pronouns, right? So this would be like, I'm kind of thinking about study here, growth of the mind through very steady, maybe slow progress, maybe even at times you're like, oh my God, we're not done yet. I have to keep going. So this might be someone who's a lifelong learner, right? Someone who wants to know a lot about everything, potentially. King of Cups. This also came up in the previous reading with the Jean Noblet Tarot de Marseille. So, this could be you learning how to grow one aspect of your personality into another aspect of your personality, right? To sort of level up, so to speak, from a knight to a king. Maybe you are a very rational, reasonable, intellectual person who's calm on the outside and able to communicate their ideas, and you can put in the hard work every day that it takes to learn more about whatever it is you're learning. But maybe what you haven't done a whole lot of is getting in touch with your feelings or develop relationships with others, and that would be where our King of Cups comes in. The King of Cups is someone who has a great potential and fountain of creativity behind them or underneath them, but they haven't always been able to take every available opportunity to tap into it, right? With this card, I always think of the way that there are the real fish behind, and then on the necklace, the synthetic manufactured fake fish, right? Suggesting that the King of Cups, I think, is someone who's maybe had to put their feelings aside or put their creativity aside so that they can be a king, right? Maybe they've had to do a little bit of sacrificing in order to become a king or maintain their kingly status up on their throne. But I also think of the King of Cups as just someone who is very good at giving advice, who can be very diplomatic. Like, this is someone who knows how to communicate with other people and understand their feelings so that they communicate things in the right way, right? And so that would be a really good balance, I think, to have if you, and you did, choose the Justice card as your significator. So if we were going to read these cards in a line to make a statement that answers the question, what is your gift? I would think it would be a very deep ability to learn, and therefore I would think teach others, right? In an intellectual way, but balancing that or learning, figuring out how to balance that. Maybe this is a lifelong thing you have to work on, with having power and knowledge over your emotions, right? So a balance of mind and heart. Should we put it that way? Your gift is the balance you can strike between the mind and the heart, and your willingness to put in the work it takes to achieve that balance. Let's now ask another 3 questions, or another question and lay 3 more cards. And let's ask now, how can you best develop your gift, right? So if you're learning how to make sense of the heart with the mind, how to find a just, fair balance between what's going on in your head and what's happening in your heart so that you can share it with others, what is the best way for you to grow or improve or nurture that gift? And 7 Wands comes first. 7 Wands can be about having a struggle, but maintaining the high ground. We've got this figure with their back to us, and they are fighting off an onslaught of 6 other wands, representing 6 other people or stressors in life coming up at them, but they're on the high ground, right? They're above all the things that are coming at them. So don't give up the fight, right? Because you can win if you keep going. More wands, 9 of them this time, from 7 to 9. So don't give up the fight, but know when to take a break. Know when you are wounded. The bandage on the head is a wounding, right? So the 9 of Wands has been doing this for a long time. They are tired, they are defensive, they are hurt. They might need to use one of these sticks to prop themselves up so that they don't fall over. They've maybe built up a wall behind them with all of these sticks, and so they need a break, right? You need to prioritize certain things. You need to figure out what needs to be prioritized because you can't go forever. There's a slow and steady increase in the stressors in your life from 7 to 9. And you cannot, I think, learn well, use your intellect well when you are very, very stressed. 5 of Swords. Okay, so one thing to consider here, the first thing that comes to mind, honestly, with this card, I think of forgiveness. So this figure on the card sitting here with these swords that they have maybe stolen from these figures who are walking away in the background. And they've got a very contemplative look and posture, right, with their head in their hand there. They're thinking, did I do the right thing? Right? And we don't know what happened with these people. Maybe these two were fighting and this person came along and intervened, maybe where they weren't wanted, because they wanted to do something just and fair and stop a fight. And so maybe they've stolen or appropriated or taken the weapons that these people were going to use to fight. But maybe it was none of their business. Maybe they intervened where they didn't need to. Could be any number of things. But the point is they're thinking, did I do the right thing? Right? Should I be apologizing? Did I intervene where I wasn't supposed to? Or had I not intervened, would those two have stabbed each other with these swords that they've taken, right? So I think there's a very important lesson here, especially given that you've chosen the Justice card, to think like, don't stop using your mind. Don't stop questioning whether or not the actions you're taking or have taken are the right thing to do, okay? I think it's really important that you constantly consider, frequently consider, am I taking the right action here? Okay, let's pull out a couple more cards. And this time, let's ask, what could be gained if you are able to improve your gift of intellectual insight into the heart, into matters of the heart, your ability to do the right thing, make the right decision, and your ability to do that comes, I think, from your frequent questioning of yourself. What could you gain? Well, 4 cups, emotional stability, relationship stability. I think of this person as someone who's meditating, who is focusing, who maybe is even like manifesting this cup that is flying in the air before them. They've got these 3 wonderful cups, but they're getting a 4th one. Some people will sometimes interpret this card as they've got their eyes closed and so they don't see the great thing that's out there in front of them. I don't know. I'm getting a sense here that the eyes are closed, but that doesn't mean its presence is necessarily unknown. So like with focus, you could achieve an emotional stability. The Hierophant, this I've got to think of teaching here because of the first card that came up in the spread was the 3 of Swords, right? And so that I think of mostly as learning. The Hierophant passes down a tradition, a set of conventions, passes it down to other people, passes it on to other people. I'm thinking again here of the Justice card, knowing how to intellectually make the right decision, weigh the pros and cons, weigh the evidence, teaching others then also with the Hierophant, teaching others how to do that as well and how to do it in the right way. So I wouldn't be at all surprised if you were actually um, teaching in some capacity or training people in some capacity. And if you're not doing that in a formal way, it could be more that just you're showing by example so that other people in your life are learning how to make better decisions because they're following you, right? Oh, and then we've got the Fool here. We've got our lovely Fool here. And so I would think being unafraid. The Fool isn't worried about, am I doing the right thing? Am I making a mistake? Are people going to laugh at me? The Fool just gets an idea of like, I have this thing I want to do, and then they go and do it, even when the dog is behind them, barking at them or tugging at their pant legs and saying, hey, are you sure you really want to do that? Maybe you should consider it more. The Fool's like, nope, I'm definitely sure, because you think this is a cliff, but actually down here, there's a beautiful beach and I want to go to the beach or something like that, right? So the other thing that I'm getting just looking at these final three cards is there's a little bit of an other worldliness that's coming through a bit to me with the way that the cup is on these wings that don't exist in the ordinary world, right? And then with the Hierophant, we've got the star in the sky, of course, and I would see this as like the what do we call it? Incense or burning censer, burning herbs or perfume that brings one into an otherworldly state. And the night sky, right? And then here we've got the clouds with the sun peeking out that echo the burning smoke of the incense, but also underneath the Fool's umbrella, if you see up here, the night sky is peeking through. I think that's what I see is a match between the night sky and the Hierophant and the night sky in the underside of the umbrella in a way that like couldn't actually happen. It's like there's an otherworldly portal there. And so I wonder if there's something a little bit magical that's coming through here, right? That if you were to develop this gift of the mind that you have, that maybe it could enable you to reach some kind of hidden forces or do something that seems impossible, make something happen that seems like it shouldn't be possible. That's the other thing that I wonder that comes through a bit here. So let's push these up, these pile of cards, and I want to do now just a 3-card little spread from the Jean Noblet Tarot de Marseille about what you should focus on right now, right? Like, what is the thing that you should be focusing on right now to develop your gift, your intellectual gift of judgment, your ability to learn steady and slowly, and to integrate that with matters of the heart. What should you be focusing on to do that? And we will pull just these 3 little cards. Oh, there she is, Justice. We've got Justice, back to where we started. So, and of course it's number 8 in this deck, number 11 in that deck, but it's still Justice. She's still got the sword in the left hand. She's looking forward. She's got the scales, right? I will say, comparing them, I think on the Justice card that's serving as your significator, they seem to me to be, pretty evenly balanced. The ones I'm seeing on the Jean Noblet seem a little bit tipped. And so this is maybe saying, tip the scales a little more, right? Like if you're making a decision right now, these are the focus cards. So this, we're thinking of like, whenever you're watching this, if you're in the process of making a decision or dealing with some problem, like maybe don't just use your mind, tip the scales just a little bit so that you're letting in some mercy, some human element, considering other people's circumstances a little bit more, And that might be a way of understanding the cards. The sword is still pointed straight up, but the scales are just ever so slightly tipped to one side. Lovers here. This can be, of course, about a relationship, it can be about lovers, it can be about making a choice. I think it can also be about leaving the past behind and moving forward. That's a third way that I will read this card, with this figure in the center looking back at this one person, but then I think pretty surely getting ready to choose moving forward with this other person. And so maybe there's a needing to leave something behind and choose to just move on and go forward. Maybe some of that is happening. And then we've got the King of Swords, which, very similar to Justice, has got the sword in the right hand on the left side of the card. It points straight up, right? The difference is the king does not hold the scales, right? Has put the scales away and instead holds, I think it's a scabbard. I think that what we're looking at is a scabbard, as though preparing maybe to sheathe the sword, maybe preparing, thinking about putting that sword down for a minute. And so not permanently, not forever. If it goes in the scabbard, it's still there. He can take it back out whenever he wants. But maybe there's a sense here that right now what needs to happen is put the sword down, right? Put the scales down, stop weighing so much, right? And instead of hemming and hawing and waiting and trying to figure out and using the mind, maybe with the lovers, it's more about the heart, using the heart to move forward. And maybe we put that sword away, or we think about maybe putting that sword away temporarily, right? For a moment. Because I think if you chose this card, you might have your sword out a lot and you might have your scales out a lot. And so sometimes it's okay to take a rest from that, take a break from that. Okay, maybe that's how you grow. Maybe that's how we get you a little bit more towards this King of Cups kind of situation. How would you do that? Well, first you gotta maybe put the sword down. All right, I will leave it there. Let me know in the comments below which of these cards stood out to you, what resonated, and please consider liking and subscribing. I'd very much appreciate it. I'll leave it there. Have a great day, and I will see you in your next reading. Hi, friends. Welcome to your reading. Group 3, you chose the World as your significator card, and I've got the Weiser Tarot here. And so let's shuffle it and pull some cards, and we're answering the question today, what gift do you have to share with the world? Which I think is interesting, given that you chose the World card as your significator. I think of that card, as I said in the intro, as bringing together lots of disparate elements, lots of things that maybe seem like they don't totally fit. You are good at uniting them, like maybe bringing people together or connecting different groups with one another in some way. I also think with the world of travel, of course, which I don't think I mentioned earlier, but that is one way of interpreting the card. Maybe you have a gift of exploring and seeing, or having a desire to see lots of different, unique, far-off places and bringing them together for other people. I also think of the way that the figure on the World card is kind of dancing, right? That there's the movement of the body, gesture. Ooh, these jumped out. So let's flip those over in a second. And so that's something else I would consider is dancing, movement of the body. So these are ready, and we'll pull out 3, but what What do these two cards have to say to us that jumped out? The World plus Ace of Swords and Justice. Justice, of course, came up in another reading today. And so here's what I'm getting. You chose the World, but the cards threw out onto the table a sword and someone picking that sword up, right? And so now I'm thinking, so the World has the wands, right? One in each hand. Uh, Maybe you need to put one of your wands down and pick up the sword. With the wands, I think of taking an action to make something happen. With the sword, I think more of like fighting to make something happen. And I think with justice of picking it up and putting it in your hand, grabbing it, right? So, do you need to fight for the world instead of just embodying the world or appreciating the world or being the world? Is there a sense instead of like you need to pick up the sword and fight for it? Maybe this is about fighting for or against climate change, or maybe the world for you could be any number of things that you're trying to bring together, trying to complete, fulfill something, right? And maybe the wand isn't doing it, and so you need the sword instead. That's what comes to mind. So these three cards are going to answer the question, what is your gift? 9 coins or pentacles. So, an ability to get stuff done independently, right? 9 is about attainment. Pentacles or coins are about getting resources together, getting results, material, actual results in the world. So, you make plans, you do stuff, and then like something happens as a result of it. So, you can make things in the real world actually happen. We've got another ace here. The Ace of Swords jumped out. We've got the Ace of Cups here. And so, a theme in several of the readings today has been bringing the mind and the emotions together. And I'm getting it again with Ace of Swords, Ace of Cups, right? A new sharp mind, a new decision, something intellectual that's beginning, right? And then here, a new feeling, a new relationship, a new way of understanding your unconscious. All of that would come through with Ace of Cups and the Emperor, which also makes me think a bit of justice because they're both seated on the throne, they're facing forward, they each have something in their hands. So, what I'm getting here with the Emperor is knowing when to pick up the sword and knowing when to use the wand, right? So we've got with these three cards, the wands, pick up the sword, hold the sword, right? And the scales. But then with the Emperor, we come back to a kind of staff or a wand again, right? So, do you understand? Do you know? Is it clear to you when you're supposed to use the wand, meaning taking some action, right? Using your own energy, passion to make things happen, to get things done, to manifest things, so to speak, right? Uh, and then do you know when to use the sword? When you need to fight, when you need to defend, when you need to get involved in conflicts sometimes. And then do you know when to put the sword down again? Right? So there's like two categories here of using the wand and using the sword. And is it clear to you when you're supposed to do each? So the gift that it looks like you've got is making changes, progress independently. Seems like you're probably really good at doing that on your own. I always think of this card as someone who can get things done. They don't really need a lot of help from other people in order to access some new fulfilling or nourishing potential, right? So a new relationship, um, it's like you can provide materially in a way that also nourishes people's souls, hearts, whatever language you'd like to use, right? And you are disciplined and in control. Like you're good at figuring out when it's time to command with the baton and when it's time to cut with the sword. Okay. So, a provider, materially and emotionally, who's also disciplined and in control. And maybe, like, I said with the Nine of Coins, someone who works independently. Here with the emperor doesn't work anymore so much as they delegate. The emperor tells other people the work that needs to get done. And so maybe your gift involves like getting promoted or rising up from independent success to boss who delegates to others, right? So let's lay out 3 more cards. And with these 3, we will ask the question. Let's see. How can you best develop, grow, nurture, strengthen your gift? How can you best grow, develop, strengthen your gift? The sun. So don't hide. Be yourself, right? I think of this child who doesn't have to cover up, right? This child who can go out, they don't have any armor on, they're not hiding anything. They're just like, this is it. This is me. This is who you get. Um, they are basking in the warmth of the sunshine. They're having a really good time. It's fun out there. They're enjoying themselves. They don't have to hide from anything. 4 coins. So this is about maybe being a little more conservative, holding on to what you've got. And this is maybe not making investments in others. I also can't help but see the way that there are 4 sunflowers in the background of the sun card, right? And then 4 pentacles on the 4 of pentacles or coins, almost as though the figure has grown up and picked the flowers and is now adorning themselves with them, holding on to them in some way. And instead of this rural background, we're like in a garden or something here, there's an urban background in the 4 of Pentacles. So, and of course, the flowers are sort of have turned into coins. So, how can you grow your gift? Is there a movement from the country to the city that needs to happen? Is there a harvesting of the flowers in order to make them something material, exchangeable that you can hold on to that last, right? Coins are going to last, flowers will die. So, is there something here about turning something ephemeral into something else that would last? Like, instead of growing flowers, making like art of flowers or something like that. And the star. So here we have pouring yourself out, being hopeful. The stars form a map. I always think that, right? We can guide ourselves by the stars. We can find our way forward by using the stars. But I also think of the way that the the figure on the four of coins is holding on so tightly to these coins, and then the star is back to not covering themselves and now is pouring what they've got out to others. So I think there's maybe a lesson described here in these three cards, what you need to learn. And of course, I always think of the major arcana as lessons of one kind or another. So, what do you need to learn in order to grow or nurture your gift? There's a process of that you're, I think, going to go through or have gone through or are going through of being, letting yourself be vulnerable, enjoying yourself, being out in the world, realizing or deciding that you need to cover up and hold very tightly onto what is yours, because if you don't, you're going to lose it. And then sort of synthesizing these two ideas into a mature version of maybe the first one, right? That says, no, I can give something forth from myself, pour myself out like the star is doing, as opposed to the four coins, right? While also letting myself be vulnerable in a more mature way, right? No longer a child, but now an adult, but giving of oneself and allowing oneself to be vulnerable. And so I think the star is really key here. And I would compare it to what we see with these cards, the first ones that came up, the first three that came up, right? We've got these two clothed figures. She's got all of these coins, right? But they're hers. They're in her garden. She's not giving them away to anyone, right? But then she grabs this nourishing water with the Ace of Cups. The Emperor there's no water here, right? There's the bounty of water in the Ace of Cups. There's just the little tiny thread of water in the Emperor. But with the star, we're just pouring it all out. So I think there's a lesson to be learned here about letting go, letting yourself, like whatever you're bottling up, let it out, right? That's the message I'm getting with the star. So let's ask one more question before we pull out the focus cards. If you can take your gift and nurture it, what could you gain? What do you stand to gain for yourself or for others? Celebration, joining in with others to celebrate something. Knight of Swords, fighting for your beliefs. We're back to picking up that sword again. And Two of Cups, a partnership. This may be, so both of these, the four wands have a couple of people, a partnership with people. There are other figures, but these two stand out. This is like a celebration, a wedding, a graduation, a party, people getting together, and two people in particular in the middle. And that's reinforced by the Two of Cups here, exchanging emotions with one another, exchanging their feelings with one another, meeting up with one another. So there could be a relationship on the horizon for you. With the Knight of Swords, I see someone who picks up that sword, right, puts down the wand, and is like ready to actually fight for the thing that they believe is important, and can maybe go at it a little too strongly at times, but who knows when it's time to pick up that sword and get into it, hash it out with people. So let's ask to end If you recognize your gift of providing for others, of bringing disparate elements of the world together, and you are able to nourish people doing that, by doing that, and open yourself up and find a way to maturely share your gift with others instead of just holding back on it. We know that you will have something to celebrate, maybe with another person, a partnership, right? And that the two of you maybe can go on an intellectual journey together. That's the other thing I think of with Knight of Swords is an intellectual journey, putting your minds together in order to fight for something. What should you focus on right now? That is the question for these cards. What should you be focusing on right now? The Tower. So maybe you need to knock down some old habits. An old routine needs to get, well, demolished so that you can start a new one. Here's the Ace of Swords again, right? So you can't pick up your sword if you don't knock down the routines, the tower, that have you always just using the wand, right? The actions. You're using your actions rather than using um, the cutting power of your mind, which you can use to fight for something, to engage in conflict. I avoid conflict, and I can imagine maybe you do too. And this spread is saying, you got to stop doing that. You're going to have to figure out an appropriate way and when is the appropriate time to engage in conflict. And then here we've got the Ace of Cups again coming out. I'll just pull that to the top of the pile because we've got it coming out again. So you're not going to be able to access your gift, share your gift, grow your gift until you knock this tower down. That's the focus. You're going to have to change up old patterns, old habits are preventing you from the potential that could come through. And so that is what you need to be focusing on. Let me know in the comments below what resonated for you here in this reading. I'd love to hear it. Please consider liking and subscribing if you'd want to help me grow this channel. And I will leave the reading there. Thank you so much. Have a great day. I will see you next time.